Okay, I'm going to show you some of my sacred geometry that I have been working on, but first of all, very first of all, I need to talk to you about the vector equilibrium because it is in the center of everything, and some people call this the God spot. Though God doesn't take up any space, there is a space defined around this God spot, and it has 12 vectors going into it. And Buckminster Fuller explored this in detail. Now, you won't be able to see this print, but I'm going to read this to you about the vector equilibrium. Because what I show you after this, you'll see the importance of knowing the definition of that. Equilibrium between positive and negative is zero. The vector equilibrium is the true zero reference or energetic mathematics. Zero pulsation in the vector equilibrium is the nearest approach we will ever know to eternity and God. The zero phase of conceptual integrity inherent in the positive and negative asymmetries that propagate the differentials of consciousness. And that was a statement by Buckminster Fuller. Energy meridians of an organic body transport energy in order to achieve a return to singular harmonic unity. The vector equilibrium represents the balanced energetic body. Vectors represent the energetic meridians. An equilibrium is the balance strived for by the energy which is inherently intelligent, resilient, and desiring spiritual fulfillment, which is to be balanced. Vector equilibrium is a balanced destination of the Spirit's devotional, noble pursuit. And now I'm going to call it VE. That's so much easier than saying vector equilibrium. VE is the anywhere, any-when, externally regenerative event, inceptioning and evolutionary accommodation, and will never be seen by man in any physical experience. Yet it is the frame of involvement. It is not in rotation. It is sizeless and it is timeless. Its mathematics deal discretely with chordal lengths. The radial vectors and circumferential vectors are the same size. VE is a condition in which nature never allows herself to tarry. VE itself is never found exactly symmetrical in nature's crystallography. Ever pulsative and impulsive nature never pauses her cycling at equilibrium. She refuses to get caught irrecoverably at the zero phase of energy. Everything that we know as reality has to be either a positive or a negative aspect of omnipulsative physical universe. Therefore, there will always be positive and negative sets that are ever interchangeably intertransformative with uniquely differentiable characteristics. VE is at once the concentric push-pull interchange, vectoral phase or zone, of neutral resonance, which occurs between outwardly pushing wave propagation and inwardly pulling gravitation coherence. Now I won't go into any more of that, but I will start showing you the vector equilibrium. I might as well do it here. I made one just out of, I think this was made out of, what are those things? Ear things you poke in your ear. I forget what they're called. But anyway, this is the vector equilibrium. Now, it's my contention that when you are studying something, you make it, physically make it yourself, so you get a more intimate feeling for it, which gives you more insight. And you play with it, which I love to do. Playing is one of my favorite things to do. And that's how I learn, through play. Now, this is the vector equilibrium shape. The vector equilibrium is inside of the octahedron. And the octahedron is inside of the tetrahedron. Now I will show you that, but let me show you first this that I made a while back, okay? I will show you how one is inside and what is on the inside of the vector equilibrium, although right now it's the Merkaba, because I want to show you that the Merkaba is inside this just inwardly. There's 8 points that go toward the center, and here you see the Merkaba, and I will turn the Merkaba into this because I made it out of clay and I can do that. I'll just take the top off of that and turn it upside down. Then we'll do away with this for a while. And then I will take, and let me see, I lost my focus here for you. I will put it, something's wrong. Oh, I see. It goes like this. I had that bottom one wrong. Okay, when you put, turn it upside down and put both sides of it that were the opposite side of it together, you have, well, you can see it easier this way. You have, again, the vector equilibrium, which, turned the other way around, is the Merkaba. So they're very interchangeable. And with nature and with sacred geometry, things do morph from one shape to another. Not only do they morph, they also fit inside of each other. And I will show you that as well, how I fit some inside each other. Let me put the Merkaba back together. And then, next I will show you this. Now, they say this is the God space, but then God is in all of us. A little invisible part of us that we don't recognize God because we can't see God. He's not physical. But if you say he's inside this shape of the vector equilibrium, imagine the squeeze, the push and the pull of life getting you like in this shape. Now I have it better over here. Makes, to me, this is my way of thinking, and this was my discovery. I haven't heard anyone else talk about it yet, but this is the chalice. This is the cup that is so sought after in all the stories of old where they're looking for the grail or the chalice, the cup that was supposedly a cup Jesus drank out of, or his blood was in. I don't know. I forget what the story is on it, but it was greatly sought after. Well, look, this cup has 2 sides and a hole right down through the middle, because you see, it's not to hold anything, it's to allow something to pass through. And that's the only way we know God, by letting God pass through us. And there you go. The chalice. The Holy Grail. Let me show you something else it is. Okay, do I have it here? I have to look over on my bed where I've got a lot of things. Okay, here it is. When you keep turning, let me go back over here. When you bend down the top part of it, after you've made it into the chalice, and you keep turning it around on itself, then you get this. And what does that remind you of? It's the double torus. And that is an energy device that, again, has the middle of it open so that energy flows in and out. And this is sort of something that's popular now. I don't know a whole lot about the torus, but a lot of people are talking about it in sacred geometry. And this is my torus made from the vector equilibrium. I make a lot of things from that. I started out one day making, I'll show you this now. Started out making this. Can you see in there the white part? That is the flower of life. And then I realized the flower of life would have a vector equilibrium in it. And it does 3 times in this size of the flower of life. There's the first one, and then there's the second one, and then right there is the third one. And this, to me, just made so much sense because the flower of life I was going to look up something on that. It's a patterning that all life follows. That's as much as I can tell you about it, because it gets a little scientific jargon there that I don't know so well. But it just makes perfect sense that this thing that represents God would fit right into the flower of life, the pattern. I'll tell you something funny. I made this thing, and I thought, well, gosh, how am I going to sit that on anything? It's on both sides, you see. The flower of life has it on one side and on the other, but if you turn it in this angle, you can see more that is the vector equilibrium. But I didn't know what I was going to mount it on. I think I was divinely guided to go to the thrift store, Salvation Army, and I found this thing, and I thought, I want that. That just might work. Brought it home, put my flower of life symbol with the vector equilibrium in it, and voila, there you go. Holds it perfectly. Was meant to be. I love it when synchronicities like that happen. Okay, now, how many minutes? 11 minutes. Okay, I'm going to show you something else. Another of my sacred geometry discoveries. This is the Merkaba. Well, it's almost the Merkaba. You can see in there, there's the God spot that I've got right there, as you can see. And it's the center. And also there's a vector equilibrium in there and the octahedron. And you build up around that, and you build it into a Merkaba. Using all the same size vectors. I always did everything like it has to be the same size or I don't continue out with it. But on this one, when I was building it, on this side, I only have three of the three little tetrahedrons that allow you to look right down in there at the heart where the God spot is. But actually the God spot's inside every tetrahedron, because every tetrahedron has all of this in it. I will show you that again later. But now here's this. It's a 7-sided form. And the reason I got interested in a 7-sided form was because of Frank Chester talking about the heart being a 7-sided geometric shape. And he explains it rather well, and I cannot go into all the detail he does, but if you look up Frank Chester, you will see that he thinks the heart is very important in that it is a 7-sided piece of our flesh. This ties the physical in with this geometry. And you'll just have to listen to what all he has to say about it. But I took that to mean that the heart is what we want to emphasize. And the heart of the Merkaba is 7-sided. See, this will fit right down inside there. And then you have the Merkaba with the last of, there's 8 of these, and this is the one that is the one I took out separately, and I put it right here. I made a little base for it, because you don't achieve unconditional love, which it says right here, unconditional love, until you put your whole heart into wanting God in your life. And I had this thought that if everybody would build this big monument shaped like this with 7 sides and somehow erect it to stand up like that, that maybe, just maybe, the Merkaba, the fly, it's really all symbolic, so don't take me literal on this, but this represents the rest of our body, the rest of the Merkaba, that already, all the points have their hearts in them already, except for this last one that represents us. But we're about to have it land on our monument. See, we erect this monument, and the Merkaba flies in and lands on it. Do I sound crazy? Maybe. This is just a theory. I guess I watched too many movies, and I saw one where there was a big monument and these Stone Age kind of ape-like creatures saw it, and it made a big change in their life, and they jumped to the next part of being human. And I thought, well, yeah, that was a pretty neat story. I don't know the name of that one, but you may remember it yourself. So I came up with this idea because it's so symbolic. It symbolizes the heart, the actual real shape of our heart having 7 sides. And it fits perfectly inside of the Merkaba. Now I'm going to put it in there one more time just to show you. There it goes. And on this Merkaba, let me show you. Inside of this heart of this Merkaba, I told you it's the heart part. Well, there's the whole thing over again. There's the octahedron and the vector equilibrium and the God spot right in the middle of that. Not only is the God spot right in the middle of that, but if you built it all in miniature into each of these corner tetrahedrons, and there's 4 of them, you would have 4 more. And then, of course, each of those would have 4 inside them, which if you could get even tinier building, you would be making the Merkaba, you would be making the tetrahedron, the octahedron, and the vector equilibrium over and over and over again. Now let me show you where I tried to do that. Okay, back over to the bed. Okay, this is one large tetrahedron. And I hope you can see this well enough, but inside I have shown how you can put vector equilibriums into it. Here's the smallest one right here. Then it gets a bigger one here, and then the biggest one, the 3. Just like the 3 that fits inside of the flower of life. As a matter of fact, the flower of life, the way it's built into the vector equilibrium is that at one angle, the vector equilibrium with its 6 points, it's 6 vectors that go around in 6 sections. Well, you'll see it on the side. And in this one, it was very hard to do. But I took wire and went inside and continued making vector equilibriums. And you can continue into infinity if you could do something that tiny. Maybe we have a machine that could make it a little tinier. But theoretically, can you see that? You could make so many, and every center of a vector equilibrium is letting its vectors join another center of its brother vector equilibrium to either side of it. To all 6 sides of it, because you see, you could come out from here. Imagine coming out from that and continuing it just forever. Like on the other side it goes on until it hits the other side, and I can't build that many things. But can you see that it could do that? And there's that osset truss, the osset truss that is such a stable condition for stabilizing anything that builders build, the little zigzag of that. Now I'll show you, it's a series of little triangles all lined up. And I was reading this in one of my esoteric books, that when we get the triangles lined up inside the atom, then we're becoming more able to contain the light. Now, look at this from this side, from the middle looking down, and you see the squares. And if you could keep building this, and the squares would get smaller as you go in, and if you kept going bigger with this, they would get larger going out. So it's squares one way of looking at it, and it's triangles and the flower of life pattern another way of looking at it. And if you looked at it this way, if you kept on building, because inside of each of these there's another octahedron. See, there's an octahedron right there where my finger is. And anywhere I place my finger in there, that's another octahedron shape, so it could receive all of this in it again. Into infinity, until this could be so thick that it's solid with this shape. And so it's a geometry that's like the Mandelbrot, I don't know if I'm saying Mandelbrot set, that goes on and on forever, getting smaller and multiplying itself as it goes smaller. This is the geometry that does that. and it has to do with the God spot, which is the housing for the idea of God and the idea of 12. Let me see if I can show you this. Okay, here's the one. There's 12 vectors that go out from the center of the octahedron. And 12 is a very sacred number and means something very important. And this is just a small one I made. And you see each corner, there's a corner there, there, and over on the other side. And all of this can be made again. See, like I've shown you with this one. And actually made another one inside this one. But then there's all these corners it leaves to the tetrahedron where again you can go in there and build the whole thing again. It just goes down, down, down into infinitely tiny size. Okay, now what was I going to show you? Oh, this is something I built. Kind of weird looking. It's the octahedron, and I show how the Merkaba sits right on the top of it, how you could build it right there, but it's inside this form too, because I showed you how it's inside the vector equilibrium, only it's just all like inside out in there. So I was trying to show that, and how the flower of life pattern goes 4 different directions through the octahedron. And here's the flower of life with the little 6 things. And look, 2 of these wheels of the flower of life meet together, if you could see that. And you would see this one, this shape right here, is the Vesica Piscis. Only the way I'm showing it, it's the male version because all the lines are straight. It's female when the lines are curved. Like in the flower of life, the lines are curved. Okay, and I've shown here how the vector equilibrium fits it right inside. I've got it in gold here, sitting inside of this. And if all these patterns were tied together, it would be the same as this one, where everything just continues on making the same pattern over and over again. And smaller if you could do it that way. Now you might wonder what this is. And this is a little different subject. This is something that I made. This is a design that I came up with from folding the dove. Only it's also called the crane. And I have a whole story about the folding of the dove, or the folding of the crane, that was given to me by way of automatic handwriting. And it was a remarkable story, and I have it on one of my playlists. Has it. It's called the Dove Story Children's Version, if you care to go look at that. But when you take, let me go back over here. When you take the folded pieces of paper that fold the crane, and you unfold them before you get completely through making the crane, and when you get it to the stage I call diamond stage, you put these together in such a way, taping them and putting them together, that guess what you make? You make the Merkaba out of 4 of these shapes. And this shape, what is so important about this shape, that is one of the progressions of getting toward completing the crane or the dove. You have the male version of the Merkaba. The male version of the, what did I call that? I just said the name of it. Vesica Piscis, that's it. Because the lines are straight. And if you look at, let me straighten this one back up. If you will look at the vector equilibrium again with me, you'll see that it's made out of nothing but Vesica Piscis. Turn this way, there's one. Oh, this is so crumpled up. But, can you see this? Like you could answer me. This shape here, that's the Vesica Piscis. Then if you turn it over, there's the Vesica Piscis. There it is, that way. Every portion of this is the Vesica Piscis put together. There's the Vesica Piscis in this. Every portion. It's that way, And then if you turn it over that way, it's that way. And I think that's real obvious to see. And I also have another symbol besides this one with the seven-sided form. I wish we would all build and make popular so that everybody would know we need to get our hearts right if we want the ascension vehicle to come. Not that it is a physical, like, UFO type thing. It could be, I don't know. But the thing is, it's symbolic. It means we get our heart right, and then it can ascend and we can descend. No, we can ascend and it can descend upon us. And now what was I going to say? Oh, about this form here, that is the form that I fold into the dove and tell the dove story about. And I also have one other thing I wanted to tell you about. Let's go around over here and you will see this is what I call the Freedom Star. It's made out of these, taped together in a certain way so that there's 32 stars and there's 180 pieces of paper that it takes to make this, and that is representative of something because the circle is 360 degrees, and when you go 180 degrees you've gone halfway around a circle, and we've gone halfway toward wanting to be God realized, but we've got to go back to our beginning. We have to do a 180 degree turnaround and go back and look at our beginning and realize that we are all one. And we should not be warring with our fellow man, no matter what, because they are part of us. And I show how to make this on another video. And there's just a lot of symbology in the making of it that is very important. And I hope you will watch that video. Here's the first one of the vector equilibriums that I ever made. It's made out of clay and it's really heavy. And it sits, can't get it off, it's so stuck. It sits on this base, which is the bottom half of a Merkaba. That's the only thing that would hold it and hold it up. The little pyramid, actually, it's a pyramid, two pyramids that are inside of the Merkaba. Two pyramids with their bottoms together. I showed you that in another thing, but now I will put the top back on it, and you can see how this is the Merkaba again. There's the 8 points. Now everything gets wobbly on me. But anyway, I've been playing around with the idea of the Merkaba for quite a few years now, and I've discovered how to make it out of the folds for folding the dove. I've discovered this about the center. It means something to me. I hope it means something to someone else. And here, I told you there was a pyramid inside of the Merkaba. Well, remember? There it is. It's the shape of the octahedron, actually. The octahedron is two pyramids with their bottoms together. I guess they're mated. Anyway, I'll nestle it back down in there. Put the lid back on. I spend all my time playing with clay and wire and paper. And lately I've been filming orbs. You'll want to check out my videos on orbs. So I'll show you this little thing I made. It's the octahedron with the vector equilibrium in it, and then another tetrahedron on top of that, showing all this over again inside of it. And even a small one up in this top part that I made and painted green. And if I could do that tiny work of doing it again, I could put it in all four corners, but I can't do that. It's too tiny to work with something that little. For me, there are people who can work with little tiny things, but I'm not one of them. Okay, let's see, do I have anything else to show you? I've shown you, oh, I make this out of that, now, this right here. Well, this is the three of those